Today on Barca Talk, we continue our Rewatchables series as we break down the Clásico from the 2015-2016 La Liga season. This classic game is marked by Luis Suarez's brace, a goal by Neymar, and a golazo by Andres Iniesta. As always, we discuss the players that made the game special, nostalgic moments, and analyze the goals. Hello and welcome to Barca Talk. I'm Gabriel Quiroga, your host in Madrid, Spain. We are doing rewatchables of classic FC Barcelona games. Today, we'll be talking about the first Clásico during the 2015-2016 season. And with me to talk about it, my partner in crime here from Miami, Alejandro Villegas. Alejandro, ¿qué tal?
Good, man. How are you? Still hot? I like that of a partner in crime, especially with Miami and all. We sound like bad boys, partner in crime.
Bad boys for life, right? Like
yeah.
the retired version, you know? How are you doing over there?
We're good. I mean, like I told you, we're not taking it seriously enough, but you know, It is what it is. So it's not in our hands. What's in our hands is just trying to stay home as long as possible, and that's what we're doing. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, we just, we have till the 26th, and the rumor here is that it's going to be extended till May 10th. I'm just hoping that they allow us after the 26th to just like walk around a little bit more because I think all of us here, just talking with my friends here in Madrid, we are just kind of amping to get out. I see my American friends, they have backyards. I'm very jealous of this right now, but, it is what it is, like you said, and we just got to stay home, and hopefully this will pass soon. And, you have the, as they say here in Spanish, ilusión, right? Like the summer.
Yeah, hope.
The hope for the summertime, the beach, the travel, and that type of thing. So that's what's kind of keeping me in check. So,
all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into the rewatchables, there is some news, and I tweeted this out. Alejandro, even during a global health crisis pandemic, Barca continues to make news, and not the good kind.
Yeah.
And so this week came out that 6 board members resigned. This on Thursday. And this is, to me, continues to be so baffling that you cannot trust Bartomeu at all. He's a snake oil salesman because the thing that he's able to get away with is incredible. Did you hear about this?
Yeah. We talked about it in our ADN Barça episode, which is in Spanish. I talked about it with Mariana Guzman. We have all the details there. But it's so crazy that, we've seen a lot of news about just board members going against players or the Barca gate. And we're like, even during this time, like you said, they can't stop. And all right, let's get together. Let's try to be a team. Let's try to be a family in this particular hard time, not only for Barcelona, but for the entire planet.
Yeah.
And they just keep doing it. And I heard an interview. I listened to an interview of the vice president, which was one of the guys that resigned. And he was saying how Bartomeu called him and they talked about the pandemic like we just did. And then the next time he's like, all right, I need you to resign. And he was like, what? You're doing this like in Holy Week and in the middle of a pandemic, and you're thinking about just a reform in the board of directors? It's just, I said it at the Barça and I said it again here. Bartomeu needs to get out. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Just in the last month with the continued news against Messi and with the social media campaign that he obviously, when you read about it, it just seems that he used Barca money to pay for this, this media company to do this. And all the things that you just line up in a row, he has to go, and this summer there has to be a vote because the way that it's continuing with the way that they treated the players with the pay cut and the way everything has just been spun in the media coming out of the board, we need a new president. Now, I saw the rumors that Sandro Rosell wants to run again, and I'm not going in that direction. We need someone new, with a new vision, but that thinks globally with the team. And because now I also read too, and also in the news here, that Bartomeu is only concerned about not the long-term view of the club because he knows his time is running out and just what's going to happen this summer. So that means he's going to possibly just try to get high-priced players just to plug in and try to save one more season.
Yeah, and that's the negative part, and that's one of the things that these 6 members were talking about in their They wrote something down for the press, and they said, okay, he's not thinking about, because we have to readapt after this pandemic. We can't be the same team just spending, I don't know, 100 millions in one player. We have to find a way of maybe investing that money in La Masia or maybe doing something different, because the world's going to change, and the world of soccer is going to change too. And Barcelona is obviously one of the most important teams in the world, and they're already facing financial problems, and they have to find a different way of doing things. And they are seeing that Bartomeu is not going that way. Like you said, he's just trying to save his last season, trying to get another Champions League, doing whatever it takes. And that's probably going to just bring Barcelona as a club. And as we have said before, Barcelona is a Mexican club. So we have to find a way to do things differently, not just being the Real Madrid, like just spending money and just throwing money around. No, let's focus and let's do things differently. And what I'm seeing is that's not going to happen anytime soon with Bartomeu there.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Just the thing is, especially in this moment, as we're recording, this world health crisis going on, and there's just still this telenovela thing that's going on every single day. I just cannot get over it. I can't get over it. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more news that's going to come out of this, because especially since these board members are talking, basically, they're not afraid to talk anymore because they have nothing to lose, and so more information is going to come out from that.
Yeah, for sure. And one of them said that they were even taking money from the club, just like pocketing money. So it's gonna be ugly, even uglier than what it is right now.
All right, so after this break, we're going to dive into this classic rewatchable. All right, so let's get into this classic rewatchable, the 2015-2016 Clásico that was played in the Santiago Bernabéu. And this was November 21st, to be specific, 2015. This was a La Liga match. And basically, this is the match that got Rafa Benitez fired.
Yeah.
And, rewatching this game, we're going to talk about all these moments, after the end of the season, what happened. But when Real Madrid appointed Rafa Benitez, what was your first impression with this hiring?
Well, I think it was a very good hiring for them. I think he was a guy that could really match what the Real Madrid is about. He was a serious guy. I remember he reminded me a lot of Vicente del Bosque, a guy that's really quiet, really calm, but that does his work quietly, and it's very good at what he does. So I thought that Real Madrid was going in the right direction, because especially after coming from, Mourinho or this type of guys that are just explosive, and there's just so much negativity going around. This guy looked like, all right, he came here just to work, not to be a showman. So that's the first impression that I got from him.
Well, to be honest, as a Barca fan, I was extremely happy, because I don't think he's that good of a manager. I think he's really good for mid-level clubs to bring them to a higher thing.
Like
but
Valencia.
when he got hired to Real Madrid, I selfishly was like, yes, this is a great hire, because I don't think he does. This is one of the things, like you just said, he's a hard worker. Yeah. He wasn't a great player when he, was coming up through the ranks. He had to really work hard. He thought about his managerial direction, and so he started thinking about tactics and went that route. But again, when you are managing a Galactico team, you have to be a big personality as well, because that's ultimately what happened with this team. They just lost respect for Rafa Benitez from the beginning. Let me just give you one quick anecdote about Rafa Benitez here in Madrid. So this is like 2 months into the campaign. They're training, and Rafa Benitez went up to Ronaldo, and he said, hey, you might want to try taking the free kicks a little bit this way, and try to change up a little bit with your approach, and maybe you might get more goals on target. And Ronaldo just looked at him, and he's like, what? So anyway, walks away. And from that day, Ronaldo started calling him number 10.
Really?
Because, basically saying that, who are you to tell me what to do? You've never played. You're not any good. And the rest of the team started calling him Diez. And so from that point on, they just completely lost respect for him. He lost control of the locker room.
Even though he was right, because Ronaldo was just
of course
not very good with free kicks. I mean, he was decent, but he could have been way better, especially the way that he kicked the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, I was always taught, when I was young, to always respect the coach, no matter at what level.
No matter who he is. Yeah.
Exactly. If you disagree, but at least take some advice. It doesn't
matter. Just
matter.
listen, and you take it or not.
Yeah, exactly. But also just have respect, especially at this level. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why he got hired. But again, I just think also he had to, at that point, prove to him, especially the locker room, that he was the alpha dog, and he didn't. And the rest of that season with Rafa was just in chaos, and they just lost respect for him.
Yeah, and this particular game is probably that last point when, all right, we are not where we're supposed to be with these guys, so that's it. Because before Messi got injured, actually Real Madrid was leading La Liga.
Yeah.
But then Messi got injured, and Barca just played 6 great games right before El Clásico, and they took the lead back. And that particular point, just getting crushed by Barcelona at home, I think that was just too much for Real Madrid.
Yeah, the writing was on the wall, especially. Yeah. So again, I always like to defer to you and Cole when we're doing these, because I just like to get your perspective. Why did you pick this game to do the rewatchable?
Because I think this is more of a dominant performance than the 2-6. We talked about the 2-6 in the Carles Puyol episode, and that was great. That was awesome. But like we said then, it was a particularly even game through the 60th minute, and then it got away for Barcelona. But this one, I think it's just 75 or 80 minutes of just Barcelona being dominant against Real Madrid at Bernabeu. So I think, and I'm going to tell you my little anecdote with the game in a little bit, but I didn't watch it live because I was working. And when I rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, I just missed maybe the best performance of this Luis Enrique team. Yeah. So that's why I picked this particular game, because this is one I remember because of that.
Nice. I mean, it's funny because, like you said, Messi was injured 6 weeks prior. Yeah. So we had to do something. And this proves to me that we can win without Messi, but we have to have the right people and the right tactics, right? And when that comes together, good things will happen. And that's really what it's about, right? Coaching is about putting these players in the best position possible and just getting a win, and we were able to do that. Now, I was watching this game live, but I watched it by myself. This was, I think, the first year when I was coming back from Madrid, and I just got the Movistar package, which is the cable package here, so I had the sports, and I was watching it at home, and I just didn't want to be bothered. And I think we were already starting with the podcast as well, so I was taking notes, and I was, into the game. And I just remember watching, and I was just, it's always different when you watch it by yourself than with other people, right? When you're watching by yourself, I get excited and so forth, but at the same time, it's almost like it's like business, I'm like, yes, goal, sweet,
Yeah, you're analyzing the game and not talking to whoever's there. Yeah,
exactly. And I was on Twitter, so I was tweeting and just seeing the response. But then when that Iniesta goal happened, I jumped out of my sofa, because when you could see it lining up, and the way he hit it, I jumped up. So again, this game for me is one of those moments, like you said, dominance, and I would say it's like one of the last keystone games for Lucho in his Barca career.
Right. Yeah, because right after the Champions League final they won against Juventus, he didn't win it again. So this could be. I mean, they still won La Liga and the Copa del Rey this year, but I mean, this particular game, I think this is probably the last great version of this team. So yeah, I agree with you. And I'm gonna tell you my little anecdote. I was actually broadcasting a baseball game here in Miami. I was working. And obviously, I couldn't watch the Clásico because I had to watch the game that I'm broadcasting. So once the guy that's just calling the game, he's like, "Oh, just check how's the Clásico going." I'm like, "Okay." So once I Google it, it's like 0-4. I'm like, "What? 0-4?" So that was I was like, "Yes." Obviously, I couldn't say that live. But I was like, yes. So right after the game, the baseball game, I just went to watch the highlights, and I had that same impression with the Iniesta goal. I was like, oh my God, this is even, I mean, I think this is his best goal. Taking aside the Stamford Bridge and the World Cup goal, those were okay. They were good goals because of the meaning. But this goal is just, oh my God, what a great goal. Yeah.
Well, we'll diagnose a little bit more in the later episode, or in the later part of this episode. But let's get into some of the news prior to this match. So this was the first time two Spanish managers were facing each other since the 2008-2009 Clásico. And we kind of did a quick Google search. So Pep was the manager for Barcelona. Who was the manager for Madrid?
Juan de Ramos was there. He replaced Bernd Schuster at that point. So yes, he was not for a very long time there in Madrid. He was coming from Sevilla. He was known more of a coach for Sevilla at that point. But yes, he was part of the those years where Real Madrid just brought so many different guys. Schuster, Capello, I don't know if you remember Capello, and then Ancelotti, Mourinho, all those guys. Rafa Benitez,
That was like a stopgap guy, He just came in really quick just to finish the season. Now, obviously, the big news coming into this Clásico was Messi, right? Messi was out. He got a knee injury 6 weeks prior. And, when he got that knee injury, everyone just started saying, oh, my God, is he going to be available for the Clásico? What's going to happen? And what essentially happened prior to that was that Lucho changed the team dynamic and basically switched to a 4-4-2. And I thought it was a really great move because not only did we get used to playing that 5 games prior to the Clásico, but all of a sudden Madrid just didn't know how to face us when we played this game. So, the big news obviously was Messi going to play, and he did come in as a second half sub in this match.
Yeah, but that was a question, because how do you prepare a game if you don't know? I mean, it's a different game if Messi is starting than if Sergio Roberto is starting, of course.
For sure.
And that, I think that was the first great move by Luis Enrique, not to risk Messi, who's just coming. He just got in shape to be in El Clásico, and maybe if the game was even, he doesn't even put him, because why risk him if he's not ready for the rest of the season? So I think that was a bold move, because you have Messi there, he's ready to play, he probably wants to play, but they probably talked about it, and you can see they talked about it because he only played 30 minutes, and that's about when somebody plays 30 minutes, it's because he talked to the coach. I mean, that was just prearranged.
Planned.
Yeah. Especially the way the game was going. I mean, Barcelona just crushing Real Madrid by that time. So I think not having Messi also showed that Neymar could be that star right after Messi left. And I think that was my feeling back then. All right, this is Neymar time. And it was. The Barcelona played great, and Neymar played great at that point. Too bad that he decided to leave right after that.
Exactly. And not only Neymar, but Suarez, the two of them playing and picking up the load, especially during that 6-week span. Now, obviously, this match, because when we were watching the match, they do the tribute beforehand for the Paris attacks. This was literally, about 7 days right after those Paris attacks in 2015. And so that was a really nice, ceremony they kind of did before. The whole team with all the coaches lined up prior. And so that was a significant point as well. Now, let's look at the lineups. This is double take section. Let's start off with the Real Madrid lineup. We had Keylor Navas, Danilo, Varane, Ramos, Marcelo, James, Cruz, Modric, Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo. And for Barcelona, we had Bravo, Alves, Piqué, Mascherano, Alba, Rakitic, Busquets, Iniesta, Roberto, Suarez, and Neymar. So with the starting 11, any double takes for you?
Danilo, man. Has to be Danilo. It's like, and even Carvajal came in because Marcelo was injured at some point during the game. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is when they realized Danilo can't play here in Real Madrid. Yeah. Because you saw him and he was just not good defending, not even good going to attack. What's Danilo doing here? And I think that's my double take for sure. And then also having Mascherano starting again in the central defense, even though he had Mathieu and Vermaelen available in the bench. And how good was Mascherano, even though he was a righty, to just, no, we're going to go with 2 righties and I don't care, because Mascherano is El Jefe and he's going to be there. Yeah. But definitely Danilo has to be my double guess. And maybe James, because even though he was very good at that point, but when you watch it right now, you're like, man, James was the number 10 guy for this team, and now he's just not good anymore.
Yeah. I would, I would agree with you with the Danilo take. For me, he's a Copa del Rey player. He's the player
like
you put in you put in the Copa del Rey campaign, but in the Clásico against the Stars, like you said, he was abysmal. And when I was reading the reviews of this match, both from the Madrid point of view and the Barca point of view, the first person that came out in both sides was Danilo. It was, obviously Madrid dreading, his defending and also his passing. Again, when I look at our lineup or our bench, like you said, Vermaelen and Mateo, like they don't have any speed on the center back pairing, Yeah. And obviously Mascherano does get hurt in this match, has to come out. Mateo does a very good job. Yeah. I mean, he was always really good in the air because he's tall. So that really helped us against Madrid because he did clear a lot of balls, but obviously he was not a Barca type defender with his feet, right? He was a really strong defender in the air, but other things he was just not good at.
Yeah. And especially because, I think if you count the Real Madrid attacks just before the 70 minutes, they didn't really come close to the goal that much. So the only way they tried to do so was trying to get long balls and all that, and that was perfect for Piqué and Mateo. So I think that's why he didn't suffer that much in this game, because Real Madrid wasn't even doing what they do best, which is trying to get together and, Bale, Ronaldo, Benzema trying to get together to find a play. No, they were just crossing and crossing. And Piqué and Mathieu were like, all right, let's just clear. Yeah.
And the other one for me, I think, was Bravo. Again, I know he was serviceable, but again, now knowing we have Ter Stegen, it's just crazy to me that
Ter Stegen was on the bench. Yeah,
I know he was on the bench, but you're telling me that in practice Ter Stegen wasn't lighting it up. A good enough to start. Because he was young and he was doing Champions League campaign in this season. But I mean, I just think he's just overall physically just so much more imposing. There's a couple of times where Bravo mishandles a cross. He's starting to lose confidence this season a little bit. You can kind of see it, and. Yeah, he was really good, for us for those 2 years. But again, I just can't imagine, especially during practice and training, you're not seeing Ter Stegen just light it up with the passing and on top of the physical gifts that he has.
Yeah, maybe they didn't want to just put some much pressure on the young Ter Stegen at that point, even though Champions League, you have a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe since La Liga is more of a weekly competition that you have to stay focused and the pressure just keeps growing. Maybe they wanted Claudio Bravo to do that transition season, and I think that's what this season was. Because I mean, he was still good under the goal. He had a couple good saves in this game. But you can see he was suffering a little bit when Real Madrid was pressuring. And you see those mishandles that he was calling for a foul, and we're like, no, there's nobody there right by you. So you just missed it. But I see what you're saying, but I still love Claudio Bravo, and he's my goalie. So.
All right, let's go into the tactics. Now, I thought this was really fascinating because, like I just kind of mentioned before, Lucho went to a 4-4-2 prior to these games to get the team, ideally knowing where their positioning was. But I honestly think, especially nowadays, this is the formation we should be using with two proper forwards. I mean, you saw Neymar and Suarez. Not only were they spacing the center backs of Varane and Ramos away, but they were crisscrossing. There was times where Neymar was on the right and Suarez was on the left and vice versa. And I honestly think that could really, really work now even better, especially since we have Griezmann and Suarez, or Griezmann and Bartway, right? And again, the X factor in this 4-4-2 was Sergio Roberto, hands down.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we see him now as a right back, but he came up as a midfielder at that point, and this is probably his best game. He actually makes the first play to that ended up in a goal, but he's so good at just recognizing spaces and just going to it. And I think that's definitely a responsibility of Luis Enrique's work, because he trusted this younger Sergio Roberto, and he's like, all right, you're going to be on the right side with Dani Alves, but helping also in the midfield, helping guard Marcelo and Cristiano Ronaldo on the left side too when they're attacking. And it's just great. And since, I mean, they didn't know if it was going to be Messi or Sergio Roberto. So this Sergio Roberto move, I think it was great, and it was a good idea by Luis Enrique. And it showed at the end. Obviously, you have the final result, but it's also a good look at what Sergio Roberto could have been if he didn't have Iniesta, Xavi, and so much talent in front of him in Barcelona. So I think he's much more better than what he is now, because he's playing in a right back and in a different position when he doesn't feel comfortable. Whereas when he plays going closer to the goal, you can see more of his talent. And even though he missed a couple of shots too, because he had a couple of chances. I remember a pass from Rakitic that he was just in the penalty kick area and he just shot it away. Yeah, but even though he didn't have a goal that day, he had a very good game.
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? I think it's having the Dani Alves because in this game he didn't go up front that much, right? Yeah. And I think there was that understanding where he was a fullback and a midfielder, and Sergio Roberto was a midfielder and at forward sometimes on that right side. Yeah. But the main thing was they kept their discipline, especially for this one game. And you can see that, like you said, Sergio Roberto was tracking back, Dani Alves was back there, and I think this is ultimately Sergio Roberto's best position, playing on that far right in this type of formation, where he's not the last line of defense, right? But he can still free roam, and like he did in this game, he was going through the middle, and the players that were defending him had no idea what to do, how to stop him, right? And then all of a sudden you had Iniesta crisscrossing the other way, and all of a sudden just creates this chaos. Now, again, I always point to the two-striker formation and have Messi play make behind him. I think that would be golden right now. Now, let's talk about the Real Madrid formation. Now, you know, in some articles I was reading, they were saying 4-3-3, but in the television version, the other one, they kind of went more with a 4-2-3-1, and kind of just looking at the game and stuff, I would agree with the 4-2-3-1. So they had the top point, they had Benzema, right, as a top point.
Yeah, and he was running the entire game.
Yeah.
Just behind the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And then they had James as the number 10, and then they had Ronaldo and Bale on either side. And, on paper, right, you just look at this and you're like, how can they not even have quality shots? I mean, they had one good shot with the Ronaldo breakaway, and I think James had a good shot from outside the box. But other than that, they didn't do anything. They didn't have ball. They also didn't seem to have any chemistry. It was like, oh, who's this guy on my left? Who's this guy on this right?
That's what I noticed, because you have three great players in James, who he's coming from the greatest World Cup he could have had with Colombia. Then you have Bale, they paid so much money for, and then you have Ronaldo. So you have three superstars at that point, and they are not connecting like Sergio Roberto, Iniesta, and I don't know, whoever, Rakitic were. So I think that's a good point, because you can bring as many stars as you want, but if you don't have a team, that's just not going to work. And we see that in this Real Madrid version.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I wanted to talk about that point a little bit later, but a little bit more. But you're right. It's all about the chemistry. And especially when we had Neymar, Messi, and Suarez playing together at their height, you could just see that they were looking for each other. They would have a little bit of flair, and they just knew ahead of time where to go. When I think about this lineup of Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo, especially without James, because James kind of came in and out depending on the manager, those three, they had some nice goals, but when I think of their goals, it's just more about clinical finishing by their part and 1v1 rather than a combo play that was just gorgeous. And that is the difference, right? Like when you are playing with these superstars, you still have to have the chemistry to ultimately score goals. And in this match, like I said, they just looked like they had never played with each other.
Yeah, because Real Madrid they've always been more of a direct type of play. All right, let's just 2 passes and let's score. And these three guys were perfect for that. Benzema, Bale, and Ronaldo. They're fast. They're good. They have a lot of technique stuff that they can do.
Yeah.
So they're perfect for that purpose. But like you said, they're not Neymar, Messi, and Suarez just doing like awesome plays that you're like, oh my God. So this is what a superstar team should look like. But yes, I mean, it depends on what you like. I mean, Barca fans like more of a just touch, and have a great play all together and score a great goal by the entire team. And Real Madrid is just, all right, let's just score whatever it takes. So it depends on what you like.
Now let's go through some of the key stats. So the Barca had a possession of 58% to Madrid's 42%. And Barca had 14 shots with 7 shots on target. Madrid had 10 shots with 7 shots on target. So, again, looking at that, obviously a lot of shots for both teams. Fouls, Barca had 10, and, of course, Madrid had 14. Saves, Barca had 7, Madrid had 3. And yellow-red cards, Barca had 2 yellows, and Madrid had 3 yellows and 1 red. And, of course, Ramos had a yellow card as well.
Yeah, and there's one yellow card that I want to point out, because it was Dani Alves. The game was 0-1.
Yeah.
There's a counterattack, and Ronaldo has the ball, and Dani Alves just stays in front of him and just tackles him.
Yeah.
And that's, remember when we talked about Puyol just getting that card in the exact necessary moment, and this moment was one of them, because it was a counter, it was dangerous. It could have been the tying goal for Real Madrid, and I was like, nope, I'm not risking it. I'm getting my card, and that's it.
And again, there was a red card by Isco in this match. And what stat for you pops out when looking at this, if any?
Yeah, listening to all the shots, I think Real Madrid had a lot of shots, but when you watch the game, you're like, okay, Barca could have won like 2-8 or something, because they missed. I mean, they didn't miss, because sometimes even Marcelo saved one right under the goal. And then Varane saved one. Suarez missed one. 2. Munir missed one just by himself at the end. Gosh. And, I mean, there were so many chances for Barcelona that you're like, man, I wish they would have just scored 6 or 7, because that would have been just awesome, just watching Real Madrid fans just suffering so much for that. And, of course, Barcelona fans enjoying scoring so many goals at Bernabeu. But I think it's that like, they had so many shots, but I feel like Barcelona was so much dangerous than Real Madrid when shooting the ball. And I think that's a stat that can be a little bit misleading sometimes.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because you look at the stat and you're like, wow, Madrid had a lot of opportunities, but they really didn't, right? The shots they usually had were from outside the box, where Bravo could easily stop them. They did have a lot of corner kicks, so they were dangerous, but for the most part, you felt pretty confident that Madrid was not going to score as often, obviously, as Barcelona. And like you said, I really wish, I mean, this is one of the things that I feel sometimes we're lacking is just to keep going for more goals, because I think sometimes, especially in this match, I really wish they could have, put the pedal to the metal a little bit and won 6-0 or 5-0 just to have that.
When you see, okay, you're 3-0 and Messi comes in, they get the fourth, you're like, okay, we're going to get four more. Because they were so much of a better team than Real Madrid, and I feel the same way with you. They should have just scored more goals that day, because they were the best team by far against Real Madrid, and they respected a little bit. They just let's just touch the ball, get the ball, and whatever. And that's why when you see Piqué, I mean, the game 0-4, Munir misses this goal by himself, and Piqué's just livid. I mean, they're just killing Real Madrid at Bernabeu, and Piqué's like, no, we won the 0-5 because that's a great result, and that would have been historic for Barca doing that again at Bernabeu. And it just didn't happen. But, I mean, I'm glad they won. They won. But I just wish they could have scored more goals.
Yeah, again, it's fine with respect. But, again, in this moment, just go for the goals. And like you said, you know why he was upset? Because he wanted to flash the 5. Piqué was ready to flash
especially
the 5,
because he was booed the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
It was at that point when he was booed all over Spain. Yeah. And this was one of those matches that was really hard. Since the first time he touched the ball, he was just getting booed, and I think it would have been just perfect for him just to, you know what, you booed me, and here are 5 for you.
All right, good. So let's go to Nostalgia Corner. For the first thing I want to talk about is just the pressing defense. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, this is with the age of the team, I understand, but again, it's just one thing to see. I think this is one of the last seasons that we really see the team completely that we have right now just pressing together as a team, because it led to a goal. And not only that, but Madrid was very uncomfortable trying to go up the middle with their midfield, because our forwards, Neymar and Suarez, were actually pressing on defense.
Yeah. And you have a Real Madrid team that in paper, like you said, looks good. All right, these guys can try to get the ball today, and they're probably going to try to bring the ball from the back and not just go for the straight goal. And they just couldn't. You see Danilo just, okay, I don't have anything to do. I'm just going to get a long ball. And you see Ramos doing the same. You see Navas doing the same with all this high pressure. And it's awesome to watch just Neymar helping in defense. And Suarez, he always does it. But you know what frustrates Suarez? When he doesn't have 2 people by him just doing the same. He's like, all right, come on, guys. And in this game, you had Sergio Roberto pressing up. Rakitic, Iniesta was sliding tackle and Busquets. Recovering balls. Busquets was faster. So, yes, I mean, we obviously enjoy it, and that's what we always want to watch. And, of course, it's not possible now because of age and the players that we have. But it's definitely something that we miss, that high pressure and recovering the ball fast and not letting the other team just think too much with the ball. They were losing, and they were so frustrated. And we took the ball from them, which was even worse for them. And I think that's something that it's perfect for this nostalgic corner.
Yeah, and the other thing too is we did I did a Rewatchables with Cole with the Bayern Munich game, and we were talking about how in that moment Messi had to carry the team with the 2 goals. Yeah. Because Neymar and Suarez didn't show up. I mean, we won 3-0. Neymar scored in that goal, but during the whole match, Neymar and Suarez were really not that good. Mm-hmm. But in this match, the opposite. I think they had a point to prove that they can carry the team, especially without Messi being injured, and they were able to do that. I mean, again, I like to use the word enchufado. Mm-hmm. They were completely plugged in. Yes. Not only attacking, but also defensively, that they wanted the ball. Now, the other nostalgic corner I have for you is tactical adjustments. I mean, wow, what an idea, This is one of the things that Lucho was good at, was making, moves before the match to get an advantage. And obviously with Valverde, we didn't see that that often. And obviously with Quique Setien, we thought we were going to see that, but we are still lacking that. So I put here tactical adjustments.
Yeah, and that's something that Valverde didn't have. A lot of times we were watching, this happens to me, during the Valverde era, and I'm like, okay, it's time to make a move. This is not working. It's minute 60 already. It's time to do it now. And substitutes just came 20 minutes later than they should have been. And this is something that didn't happen with Luis Enrique, even not even making moves, just with the guys that you had on the pitch. You can see, all right, now they're doing this. They're trying to adapt, doing this and that. Because Real Madrid came back from the halftime, and they had like 5 good minutes starting the second half. Marcelo had a good chance. And then you see how the team like reacted to it. Luis Enrique did something, told them something, and it just changed. Okay, now they're back in control, and now they're doing whatever they were doing before. So yes, this is something very specific from Luis Enrique, just the way he looked at details and, all right, let's fix this because this is not working. And I think that's awesome. And obviously with Valverde and Setien, I think they play very similar. Setien tried to do something different with the 3-man defense and the wings and whatever, but that didn't last very much. I mean, that was like maybe 2 games. And then he was like, no, you know what? Valverde maybe was right. This is the best. Maybe this is the best way to play with this team right now.
Yeah. We talked about the pressing defense, and the opposite of that would be Ronaldo. Ronaldo did not press once in this match. And for me, Nostalgia Corner is seeing lifeless, blaming, crying Ronaldo, because I just think, I respect his talent and his productivity. But as a player on my team, I would never want him on my team just because of the attitude of the way he portrays, especially in the Iniesta goal, where he just looks around and he starts to try to point fingers at the defense. I mean, I love when it goes right to his face.
Yeah, and you know who's responsible for that a lot? Dani Alves. He was definitely shorter than him for sure.
Yep.
But he would fight every ball. He would just be right by him, just bothering him. And I think that was a great work by Dani Alves, because that's maybe something you don't watch. I mean, you're obviously watching the ball or whatever it goes.
Yeah.
But if you focus on Cristiano, you always see Dani Alves close to him.
Yep.
Very similar to the Carlos Puyol against Figo thing, without being a personal defense stuff. But I think that's a key point. Ronaldo didn't have a good match, and he didn't even move to the other band or to the midfield to do something. He just stayed there by the line, just waiting for his chance. And whenever he had, because he had a couple of shots by the end of the game, he didn't even finish it as a goal. So it was a poor performance by Ronaldo. Madridistas will focus on Danilo, but Ronaldo didn't have a good game.
Yeah. I think also this is a transition where Ronaldo starts to become more of the number 9, right? Where he's not floating back to midfield as much, and he was more stagnant, and so that happened. Now, the other one we want to talk about is Iniesta's performance. In that season, they were starting to talk about the decline of Iniesta, and it was apparent. He wasn't able to keep the high level week in and week out. However, it's a big game, big match, and again, he was in it to win it, and he showed up in this match.
Yeah, remember, we don't have Xavi anymore at this point.
Yeah.
So this is Iniesta's team right now. I mean, of course, we have Messi, but this, like, as a leadership and playmaker in the midfield, this is Iniesta's team. And it's just great watching him just going for just hard at every ball in midfield and just being dominant. And you see Modric just suffering. Kroos just doesn't know what to do. James, I mean, he was just not at the same level as Iniesta that day. And it's so great because even when he comes out and this is a great moment, he even gets a standing ovation from Bernabeu, which is something that doesn't happen very often. I mean, I remember Ronaldinho getting one in that 0-3 and when he scored 2 crazy, awesome goals. But it doesn't happen very often. And of course, it's not going to happen ever with Messi, maybe when he retires. But I don't know. And it happened with, well, I don't know. I doubt it too, but maybe. And then Iniesta just gets, just recognition from the public. You know what? It was just a great game, Andres. There you go. Here are your claps. Even though some people were booing too, because they were just frustrated because it was 0-3. They were just getting smashed by Barcelona at home. But it was just so great, even having the recognition from Madrid fans. They're like, all right, you beat us today.
I think also the other thing too is that you can never take away that World Cup goal.
Yeah.
And Madridistas are Spanish people.
Yeah, of course.
And so that is the other thing, Even though he is a Barca player, he did win him the World Cup. And so, again, even Madridistas like him.
Yeah, that's in the back of their minds, but that doesn't happen with Piqué, though. He won the World Cup,
too. I know, but Iniesta literally scored the goal. I mean, he literally scored the goal. That's it. All right, let's break down the goals. Now, these were some great goals. The first one was scored by Suárez in the 11th minute. Now, let's just break down this play. Sergio Roberto, again, we were talking about his free reign, and again, this started this. So he had the free reign, confused Madrid all game long. He gets a pass from Busquets about 15 yards away from the halfway line, cuts to the middle. He finds a gap, basically goes untouched. And what I don't understand is Ramos comes out to challenge him for whatever reason. Yeah. I have no idea, because he was still 30 yards away from goal. Like, it's not, I mean, he's coming, but you still have the flat four. It wasn't Roberto against Ramos or 1v1 or anything.
And he's going to the left, and he's not a lefty, so you can just stay there and wait for him to go to the right.
Exactly. So Ramos comes and checks him, which leaves Suarez exposed. And then Roberto makes a really great through ball. And I think the finish was excellent by Suarez, because, again, he could have just done a normal right finish. But no, he did this kind of in-swing type of shot, which was able to beat Navas in the far left corner.
Yeah, very beautiful touch with the outside of the foot. It was just awesome the way he decided to finish that play. And this is one of the plays that you can see how or why I don't consider Ramos one of the best defenders of all time, because this is a very basic play. You have number 9 right by you. Don't leave him alone just because some guy's coming across. I mean, you still have 2 or 3 guys to try to cover him. And, I mean, Suárez's movement is also great because he gets a little bit more space in the box. But it's just, I think this is Ramos' fault.
Yeah,
if you want to blame somebody in this goal, if you're a Madridista fan, I mean, it's Ramos. If you're a Barca fan, you're like, oh my God, what a great play by Sergio Roberto, and it was. But if Ramos just stays where he's supposed to be, that doesn't happen.
He left Varane in no man's land because Varane saw Suarez and he was wondering, what is Ramos doing? But he did this all game long. I mean, this wasn't, we missed opportunities because Ramos kept trying to check up for whatever reason. Anyway, let's go into the Neymar goal. This was scored right before halftime in the 39th minute. This has really started with the pressing and the team defense. Basically, Suárez is hounding Modric, creates a turnover. Busquets one passes to Rakitic, who one passes it up the line to Iniesta, and then the break is on. They're on the counter. And with this play, Iniesta makes this great move, basically like in Top Gun in the movie where he just puts the air brakes and both Modric and Kroos fly right by him. He goes onto the left side towards the middle, and he just makes this cheeky little through ball chip thing going on and finds Neymar, and Neymar just basically makes a hard pass past Navas' diving hands again. The moment for me was the Iniesta play, right? To beat those 2 guys and not only do that, but then also carry through with that really cheeky through ball. Yeah,
and we were kind of lucky in that play because Navas kind of gets a hand on the ball, but the ball just goes under him, and it's a goal for Barca. But it was that point of the game when, okay, Barca was so dominant, but the game was still 1-0, and then they were going to the halftime. So this is a perfect moment to just, you know what? We are very superior. And this is the second goal, and it was Neymar. Like I told you, it was the time for Neymar to show that this is a team that he can lead, scoring goals too, and that was great. Of course, the play by Iniesta was just spectacular, and I like what you said there about the one touch thing, because that's a key tool for Barca players when they're on. You can see when they're on, when they're like, all right, one touch, chance. Yeah. And that's what happened here. And there's a very similar play that didn't end up in a goal at the end of the first half, that Neymar goes to the band and then he crosses to Suárez, and Suárez just couldn't finish it. And Marcelo, he finished it, but Marcelo was there to save it. But it was a very similar play. And I think this was a perfect symphony with Iniesta and Neymar that I wish we could have enjoyed a little bit longer.
Exactly. Again, the one-touch passing that covered basically 40 yards in 2 seconds, and it really caught Madrid on the counter. Now, this is one of the goals, or the third goal. If I were introducing a new football fan to introduce them to Barca, I would show them this goal, because this, to me, is an obra d'arte. It's a chef's kiss, right? It is just a masterclass of understanding, movement, technique, passing, everything you would, as a footballer, you wish you could do this in a game, let alone in a Clásico. So let's start it off, right? Again, watching these rewatchables, we see how good Rakitic was. People do forget, especially now that they Twitter hate him right now. But anyway, Rakitic starts to play.
They Twitter hate him, but in Camp Nou, they still love him because he gets ovation.
I still love him.
Yeah, me too.
I still love him. I want better. I want him to be in a better position. But anyway, so basically, Rakitic starts his play. He goes down the middle. And basically, they're just kind of doing an X, right? I mean, Rakitic is going in the middle, and then Iniesta comes the other way. He finds him, and then Ramos' defending on this is atrocious. I mean, thank God, right? Because this basically opens the play. He doesn't pass Neymar off to Varane. He follows Neymar at the top of the box, right? Neymar does a good enough job of sealing Ramos on his right, and he basically does a Cruyff behind pass. It's like a soft... And Iniesta, you can just see him running onto it, and he one-times it, upper 90, right foot, top of the box, unsavable. And like I said, when I was watching this, I jumped out. And, that is why I love this club, because they provide goals like this where it's jaw-dropping. And this goal, especially in the Spanish commentators, they were basically speechless of how beautiful this goal was.
They were like, "Oh, qué golazo!"
Yeah.
It was so great. And it was, like we said, it's very similar to the first play when you see a guy going to the left, but he's not going to shoot it because Neymar didn't have the angle to actually go to the left and shoot it. That would be the only reason why a defender would go after him.
Sure.
So Ramos just bites. That's it. I mean, he just went after Neymar. He probably thought, okay, Neymar's going to try to do some play here or whatever. And then Iniesta just comes free and gets this goal. And I think it was great for him because he was being one of the best in the game. So I think with this goal, it just, all right, he deserved just, all right, you're going to score this goal. And it was, like I told you, it's probably his most beautiful goal.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the one in Stamford it's very beautiful and it's very important for Barca. But I think this one, the collective play, the entire thing that went on between players and then the finish, I think this is his best goal. Because that one in Stamford Bridge is just desperate. We're trying to get a goal, and then, all right, he gets the passing, he just shoots it.
Flips
and
it.
Whatever, and it's a goal, and okay, we go crazy. But this one is just, like you said, like an art. All right, here you go, pass, flip, and then Neymar just beautiful touch, and here you go, just a bomb from Neymar, from Iniesta.
Yeah.
So yes, it was just a great goal.
Yeah, and again, I would say also the Ramos defending, and also Marcelo having the bad spacing. He left so much space between him and Ramos that allowed this. So again, back to bad defending. Now let's finish up with the last goal. This was Suarez's brace, and it came in the 74th minute. And Messi had just come in as a sub, and he was basically free floating as a number 10.
Yeah.
And this has confused Madrid even more because they didn't know who to cover now, because basically Neymar and Suarez kept their formation as the top two. Mm-hmm. And Messi started it. He comes in. He gives a great through ball. Again, you just see it develop. He cuts it through two people, and for whatever reason, Alejandro, Jordi Alba is in the center. I had to watch his play 4 times to finally pick up who that player was, because you can see Neymar all by himself because Carvajal is trying to defend Jordi Alba. Again, poor defending, poor tactics again, but it helped us. Jordi Alba one times through to Suarez, who's perfectly onside, and maybe a year before this, Suarez ham-foots this and does not finish it. But he's able to get Navas down to the ground and finish it and gets his brace, and it's basically game, set, Guillermo for Barca.
Yeah, and this is the kind of pass, talking about Messi, that it doesn't count as an assist, but it should, because it just clears the play and just gives Alba, who was in the false 9 position for whatever reason, and we can talk about it in a little bit. And then just this kind of pass for Messi, it's not an assist in the sheets, but it should be like in our minds if you love soccer, because he was just covered by 3 or 4 Real Madrid players in the midfield, and then he just gets the ball in the perfect moment to give Alba a chance to get the pass to Suárez. And I think it's just understanding, like we said, as a team, understanding whatever you are, you know what to do. I mean, if Sergio Roberto was there, he was probably going to do the same thing, or try to, at least. And then Alba finds himself, and that's the only thing he could have done, because he's a lefty. He's coming from left to right. He's not in his natural position, so that's the only thing you can do to help the team, and he did it perfectly. And I think it was a very beautiful goal. Suarez also had the opportunity to give it to Neymar if he wanted.
Yep.
He said, you know what? No, it's my time. So here you go.
Yeah.
And Navas, I think it's the perfect picture of what Real Madrid was that day, because he's like, okay, I'm standing, I'm waiting, and then he just fell on his butt, and he's like, oh, and he just couldn't hold it, and then Suarez just finished it, and it's great, and I think it's a beautiful goal because the way they formed it, but it's also a message for Madridistas like, all right, your team is really literally on the ground right now.
Yeah, I think it's a good message. Now let's just finish up with a couple talking points. The first one I have here is just, we kind of touched about the super team, right? And we're kind of going through this now with our team, is that we're continually trying to bring all these free agents at high price. And if we've ever seen it in in every sport, essentially, baseball, basketball, football, obviously world football here, it's impossible to sign every best player. It's physically impossible, right? The super teams are great teams and have great runs because not only do they have great talent, but they have good chemistry. But you also have to have the mixture of the hardworking players that have been through the system, along with the mixture of both, right? And I think this Real Madrid team is a classic example of trying to sign all these top players, and they just have no chemistry. Yeah,
and even the public there at Bernabeu, they were even chanting Florentino dimisión. They wanted him to just quit, because even though he bought the players, whoever who could be at that point the greatest player available, and why are you blaming the president? You should maybe blame the coach, because he couldn't find a way to put them together and to find a way to find an actual team, an actual soccer team, and not just the best of the League 11 or whatever. So I think this is a very important message for what Barcelona is going through now. Just trying to maybe trust a little bit more on your guys, the Albas, the Sergi Robertos.
Yeah, the youth system. Right?
I mean, they're not the stars. They're not Neymar. They're not Suarez, who are also important, like you said. But they help you win this type of games because they understand what the team is about. And that's what I feel like that Real Madrid team didn't have at that point. And that's what, and we're probably going to talk about it in a little bit, that's what Zidane did right after Benitez left after this game. Yeah. He came to a team that was very good in paper, and he was like, okay, I need to find a way to make these guys play with each other, because right now they're just trying to get goals by themselves, it looked like, and it's not going to happen.
I mean, let's go right into that. I mean, essentially, this Madrid team wins the Champions League at the end of the season, which to me is appalling and incredible, because you watch this match and you're just like, how did they even qualify and get through this? Because they did not look like they wanted to play. And obviously Zizou came in, the real number 10.
He was a number 10, yes.
He was a number 10. He came in and he focused more on just getting the team to follow and be together. And I think that was a huge thing. He didn't have to, he's not known as a tactical genius, or he wasn't doing new tricks or anything like this. But the best thing he did was just try to assimilate the team and just get them to focus on one goal. And they were able to get the Champions League. Obviously, Barca finished with La Liga and Copa. And again, we had a horrendous showing against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League at the end of the season.
Yeah, and this is the final that actually Atletico Madrid loses in penalty kicks at the end, and with the 90 Ramos goal and whatever, which I still can't believe how they can guard Ramos in that corner.
I know.
And when you look at this season, you're like, okay, Barcelona should have been in that final instead of Atletico, right? And you were talking to me about this games that we had against Atletico de Madrid, who are very good at doing this, just getting, even though they're not the best team, they get through somehow. We saw it against Liverpool this season. They were, somehow they kicked Liverpool out of the Champions League, even though Liverpool is the best team in the world right now. And they did that with this Luis Enrique team. And I feel bad because this would have been awesome. Having a rematch with Real Madrid in the Champions League final would have been great. And we have to give Zidane credit. He was a great leader. I don't know if he's the best doing the tactics or whoever did it back in the day or nowadays when he coaches Real Madrid. But he did find a way to, all right, let's play as a team and let's win titles, which is what at the end people care about. And that Champions League, or this season, just started the decline of Barcelona in Champions League, because we haven't won it since Luis Enrique won it at that point, and maybe that's a sad part of this game because this is probably our highest point. And then we never performed at this level, especially in Champions League and especially against rivals like Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, take away La Liga out of this side. You know, if we're just talking the Champions League run and elite performances, this is one of the last ones because the Valverde era comes and we have a couple games that first season that, you know, we do all right with La Liga. But again, you know, they're very few and far between. Now, my last question for you. Mm-hmm. Now, we kind of had a mini debate about this. Are we sure that Toni Kroos is good?
Yeah, well, like I told you, I think he's a very good player. He's an awesome player, like a very good midfielder. And he didn't have a very good game against Barcelona in this 0-4. I mean, Modric didn't have a good game, or James didn't have a good game, even though he was probably one of the most insistent guys on the pitch. Like I told you before the show, like every time you watch a Real Madrid header, a goal, an important play, Toni Kroos is somewhere around there related to that play. So I think that's why Real Madrid fans like him so much because he has that special touch. He's not the fastest. He's not going to dribble 2 or 3 guys to get around and make a great pass, but he does have that little touch, and he's very good crossing the ball. And that's why maybe he's considered elite, or he was considered elite at some point before Germany was out of the World Cup and Real Madrid started falling out, even though they won 3 Champions League. And I think they won 3 Champions League in part because of what Kroos brought to the table. So I think that's why. I see your. But I want to listen to what you had to say about him, Matt.
I think he gets lost a bunch of times, and you just assume that he had a good game because they won because he didn't mess up. I think that's part of the problem. Now, you say long balls and crosses. I think he doesn't assist very much. Like where you say, wow, he's a league leader in assists every year, so he's doing that. He doesn't really score that many goals. He's paired up with Modric, okay, fine. But again, if you take away the Brazil performance, that 2014 World Cup performance.
Yeah, they won 7.
Because unfortunately, I watch a lot of Real Madrid games because I always like to see what they're doing and so forth. And when I'm watching...
I think all Barca fans watch him. They just don't say it.
Yeah. So, especially like this season and the season before, he does enough to hold the ball and not make mistakes. And I think that's what you can say really about him. And, okay, that's fine. But like over the top as an elite midfielder, I just don't even think of him. Even if I was making 3 teams, 3 starting 11s, he wouldn't even make him my starting midfield. So I think you have to revisit his stats and just see his assists per season and so forth, because I don't think they're that great, and I don't think he's that good. I think he's above average, don't get me wrong. And there's something to be said that he doesn't make mistakes. I think that's very German of him. Yeah. But at the same time, for example, I would take Modric over him. I would take so many other midfielders over him before I would have to choose him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And he had Modric and Casemiro by him to help him a little bit in that run for Real Madrid. So I guess that could be a point. And he has Valverde nowadays, so that they maybe cover a little bit of what he does wrong. But I see why Real Madrid fans like him. I mean, they won 3 Champions League for a reason. I don't think that's...
I know, but I mean, he really didn't do that much, you know? Yeah, like I said, there's something to be said about not making mistakes. Yeah. There's something to be said, especially in midfield, right? A person who can control the ball and not do it. But also, if you're paying a player at this money and you think he's elite, he should have more presence, especially in a lot of games. I can't remember a Clásico where he's actually done something amazing or had a great game. We're like, wow, that's the Toni Kroos game.
Yeah, I think we can agree on this. If you compare, Iniesta, Xavi, and Busquets, and you compare Kroos, Modric, and Casemiro, you always take the Barcelona midfield.
Yeah, of course.
And that's for a reason, because they're not at the same level as these guys. So I see what you're saying.
Understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll finish with that. I just thought it was an interesting question to pose. That's it. So thanks to everyone for listening. We'll have more episodes of Classic FC Barcelona matches coming out still, obviously, since we're going through this global pandemic. Until next time, Visca Barça.
Visca Barça.